Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pirates Parley, episode 22. Today, I'm joined by maybe one of the OGest IRL teams, none other than Barrett from mtnDAO. There you are. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hey, howdy. Good to be here, Steve. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no worries. Glad to have you. Um, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the mtnDAO office in Salt Lake.
Damn. So, how big is the office?
We have about 14,500 square feet, like 120 desks and monitors, in like downtown Salt Lake.
Hot damn. That's crazy. So is this like a permanent office? Is it like other people joining in, or do you just share it with your co-founder?
I mean, it is technically for anybody in the Solana ecosystem that wants to come through and work, right? It's open all the time, 24/7. Um, Obviously it's most busy during the summit months that we have in February and in August. But yeah, anybody can come in and work. We have people come in quite often, actually. I think there's probably like, four or five of us that are like here all the time every day, and then we see, you know, people ebb and flow throughout the in betweens.
Awesome. I actually didn't know that. I thought you guys like rented out a space twice a year and then ran with that.
So we originally did. I mean, for the first 3 years that we did it, we rented out um, just like co-working spaces, right? Until we got too big and they ran out of room for us at like all the opportunities in Salt Lake that were like on a month lease, effectively. Most people are like, well, like, if you want like a bigger office, we've been like, you gotta like sign like a multi-year term. And then, yeah, we outgrew the co-working shop that we originally were at, went to another one, and then did a year at WeWork. And then we were the only people that had rented their like their big office in like 6 years. And so
Oh,
they like broke it up into like a bunch of smaller offices, and we like to have like one giant open space for everybody to work in. I think it just like has a lot to do with like the serendipity and the beauty of what can happen at mtnDAO. And so we found like this building, and we did like a year to begin with, and then this at the beginning of this year we signed like a 3-year lease. So we'll have this office for another 2.5 years effectively.
that's huge. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's talk about you for a minute.
Mhm.
I would love to hear about your Solana journey thus far. How did you come into contact with Solana? Were you in the block space before? And yeah, tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah. So my journey into Solana started in 2020. I was building a company for pre-IPO markets, hoping to open up access for anybody to be able to trade, liquid derivatives around, pre-public companies, because as the trend goes, the valuations keep getting higher, and the how long it takes for companies to go public is just getting longer and longer, and a lot of the value is eaten out in those like private markets, right? And so, talk to a bunch of the regulatory entities in the United States, and some other like platforms and brokers, and effectively was told that you know it's going to take you 5+ years to get the licenses, and hundreds of millions of dollars to generate these markets and liquidity. And I was like, there's got to be a faster way to do that. And that was around the time of DeFi summer. I had like originally like gotten into Bitcoin back in like 2012 playing poker. And then just some kind of like, I stayed like familiar with the concept. I never built anything, didn't really do a whole lot with it from like 2012 to 2020 when I really started to like look at it again. Um, and was just like doing a bunch of research, playing around with a lot of like DeFi primitives that were on ETH at the time. And was like, dude, this is slow. Like, I don't know how you're gonna like how I'm supposed to build like an exchange here. And an ETH person who didn't really like me is as a nice way to put it. Was like, hey, like I don't want you to build in the ETH ecosystem. So he made an intro to Ben Sporango at the time, which was the head of strategy at Solana, and he said, "Yeah, go build on Solana," because he had written off Solana, but he was like friends with Ben, and so I guess liked me enough to make the intro, right?
So
And
you
so yeah, started
actually
talking.
got pushed into Solana out of spite, and it was a
Yes,
golden match.
yes, and then had my first conversation with Ben, and I was like, "Oh, dude, this ecosystem seems a lot more promising. It's fast, it's cheap." And I was like, and Serum was like, live at the time,
For those that
which was
don't
like the big
know,
thing for me.
Serum, can you
Uh,
briefly explain it?
Serum, Serum was the original order book protocol on Solana. I think it launched, yeah, in 2020. And then, obviously had like the rise in popularity with FTX over 2021, 2022 ish. But yeah, that was like the original like permissionless order book to build on top of. And, you know, I found that I was a big believer of order books, still am a big believer of order books. Solana was the only chain at the time that could really support order books. So naturally, it's kind of like where I put the stake in the ground and was like, okay, like I think I'm going to build my company here. And that was January of 2021, during the precursor of mtnDAO, what it is today. Edgar and I were, in tech, and we were hosting like hacker houses, or we had gone to a couple and we hosted our very first one. We called it Mountain Compound in January and February of 2021. And we like rented an Airbnb, lost money, invited a bunch of founders. We had like 25 people sleeping in like a 6-bedroom house.
Nice.
People sleeping on the floor.
Imagine the smell.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it was a good time. And there's, a couple, OG Solana kids, like Hard Hat Chad was there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. So that's where I met like Hard Hat Chad. Um, and what he worked on originally in the Solana ecosystem. So it's pretty cool. I think there's a couple other people that have been ancillary in the crypto scene as well. Actually, one of the Phantom devs was there for a bit as well, Nick Cruz. But yeah, so like that's when I found out about Solana, and kind of kept building on it since, just being the best chain that I had ever interacted with and continued to interact with, right?
So did you ever have any more contact with that Ethereum person that tried to do you
Nah,
one and no?
nah. After he made the intro, I don't think I've ever talked to him again.
Oh, you should
Um,
reach out and thank him.
yeah, I don't. You know, I think he got run out a bit, and also I think he's super rich and doesn't care anymore. So I haven't seen him on Twitter or anything like that in years.
It's good to express your gratitude every once in a while.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
It's good for the soul. So after that, you had Mountain Compound, 25 people spread across 6 beds. Um,
Yes. And then so ended up raising for my first company that I ever built on Solana. Out of that hacker house that we did. Fast forward about 8 months, we go to Breakpoint, right? The very first one, had such a good time, and Edgar and myself, I brought Edgar into Solana through starting to like build in it. He ended up raising for his own project at the time as well, and we were like, we should do it again. Let's make it like Solana specific, right? Breakpoint just happened, so we put out like an application, right? Didn't really. We're like, yeah, maybe we'll get like 25 people again, right? And then like 200 people applied, and we were like, oh shit,
Oh, damn.
We can't do this in an Airbnb. And luckily we had like, gotten a tiny shared office in a co-working space in Salt Lake that was like brand new. We were like the first office in. And we're like, hey, like, do you guys mind if we rented both of your common areas and like brought in like a ton of people? And so that's how, Mountain DAO as it is started. And then we're like, well, how are we going to pay for this? And we just started like dialing for dollars to like all the people that we have met, attending all of the like meetups and whatnot and breakpoints, etc. In the early days of Solana, and pulled together some money for some sponsorships and hosted the very first one. And it turned out to be like a big success, which was cool to see. And from there, we were like, oh, we'll just host it like once a year. A couple months after, the first one ended, people were like, so when's the next one? And we're like, next year. And they're like, can't wait that long. And I was like, okay. And so Edgar and I like did some brainstorming, and we're like, well, like, what are we gonna do if we don't take people skiing, right? Like Mountain DAO, like the first one was in February. We obviously, take people skiing. And then we're like, all right, like we still got mountains here. Like we can take people mountain biking. Like we'll invite them here for, a summer month, so they're 6 months apart. And then, yeah, that's like kind of how they forced our hand into hosting the second one, or the making it biannual.
And Salt Lake was also one of the Olympic locations in recent history. So, is there still any of that infrastructure left? Is there
Oh yeah.
any? So it's
Oh
still
yeah.
like,
All that infrastructure is still here. I mean, like there are like 7 world-class ski resorts 45 minutes away from like Salt Lake City. So I mean, like they just get to use like most of the ski slopes. There's obviously like cross country skiing, venues that operate just as normal. They were there before. They'll be here, long after. And the now like all the Olympians train here as well, right? So like there's like the bobsled team, or like there's like the bobsled course, the skeleton course. There's the Olympic Training Center in Park City. So for like the aerials and whatnot, and obviously like Salt Lake and the surrounding ski resorts host all the ski and snowboard competitions that FIS World Tour, a lot of racing and moguls and aerial stuff.
nice.
Still like happens here like every year, and so
So
the
in summer you
infrastructure.
can go down with a skateboard or with roller skates, or how does it work?
I mean, you can go down with like a mountain bike, and you can like hike the resorts as well. But I think like if you're looking for some fast fun, then you're looking at like mountain biking down, or the ski resorts.
And I heard that Utah is great for paragliding, paramotoring, and skydiving as well, which is
Yes,
I'm looking into getting into that. So
yes.
yeah,
I mean, in my opinion, Salt Lake is in Utah is like the best outdoor mecca that is attached to a city. Right now, it's a tier 2 city, but I think that that's perfectly fine. I mean, like I live in downtown. I have a city. I'm 45 minutes away from escaping into the mountains. There's an international airport, so it's like super nice to travel out of. Like 20 minutes, 15 minutes from downtown. Direct flights to pretty much everywhere. Well, Europe and Asia as well. But I think that it makes it really easy for our international community that it comes to Mountain DAO to travel in and out of, and then also it's such a geologically diverse place that it provides a lot of really cool outdoor activities that people might not get based off of where they live. I think that that's one of the draws to Mountain DAO is the work hard, and then also get outside at least one day on the weekend, culture that we've kind of like been able to produce.
so would I be correct in stating that the state of Utah, Salt Lake City, kind of is like Solana, like monolithic? There's something for everyone. You can host basically anything you would like in the area.
Yes, I would say so. I mean, the only thing that we don't really have is if you want to go clubbing till, super late in the morning. That doesn't really exist here. So, if that's your thing, sorry, but I'm personally like okay with that. I don't really, I'd rather go outside and enjoy the sun.
Yeah, and build some stuff.
Yeah, and just that helps with the lock-in culture here.
Yeah, exactly. So there's also a chat. I'm not sure if you already saw, but El Chuo from Venezuela, he just logged in and asked, I heard or read somewhere that you were going to do one in Brazil, or have they already done it? I think El Chuo is confused with Island DAO. There is going to be an Island DAO in Brazil. Mountain DAO is always in the same location, always in Salt Lake City, if I'm not mistaken.
So far, it has been. We have like talked about, doing something in Asia, and so that's on our radar. Um, we've had a number of inquiries about it, and so I think we'll see what we can do. No promises, but it's definitely a possibility for Mountain Dew to go to Asia.
All right.
They got good mountains over there.
And nothing in Europe. I hear in Switzerland there's a few good mountains
So
too.
there's some real good mountains in the Alps. Yes, in the Dolomites and northern Italy. I guess that's technically still the Alps, but um, yeah, I think the Leon, one of the founders of Blue Shift, he tagged Mountain Dew and said that they might have some ideas about a Europe one. So maybe we don't know. We had like conversation hasn't really advanced past that the Twitter interaction. So Leon, if you're watching, or Leo, I might have fucked that up, and I apologize. Um, let's chat.
It's short for Leonardo, so potatoes, potatoes.
Potatoes, potatoes. There we go.
Or if the as the
Also, I can't see the chat. I open the chat, but it's just a gray box for me.
all right, yeah. I'll just read the questions out loud.
Okay.
Yeah. So over the course of the years, Mountain Dew has really grown out to be a huge event twice a year. It has taken a permanent residence in Salt Lake City. What are some of the products or teams that launched from this? Well, how would you call it? Petri dish of Solana excellence.
Yeah. I mean, great question. I mean, like, there's been so many at this point. I mean, I think there's been like 30 global hackathon winners that have come out of Mountain Dew, and alumni have gone on to like raise, only counting their like first rounds, 30+ million, I think, at this point. I mean, the early days, I mean, like I remember the judo guys coming. Now they didn't launch out of Mountain Dew, but I remember, they hired some of their original employees from, coming to Mountain Dew. I think, maybe I'm mistaken, but I'm pretty sure Evan, who works at Judo, came to Mountain Dew as like maybe an intern, or was like thinking about joining Jito or talking to them, and then ended up joining after Mountain Dew. Obviously, Hard Hat Chad started, a lot of his stuff. MetaDAO did not form at Mountain Dew, but Prophet did meet Colin for the first time in person at Mountain Dew, and I think Mountain Dew has done a pretty good job of giving distribution to MetaDAO. Obviously, I've been a long time participant of the Futarchy, and enjoy ownership coins and what they can do for correcting some of the reputation of having like valueless tokens. So I'm a big fan of that. Yeah,
So
I mean, there's been so many. Those are just like a couple big ones. Off the top of my head. Yeah.
so what about Mountain Dew is it that makes it such an excellent birthing ground for good ideas, for strong relationships? What aspect of it do you attribute the success to?
I mean, I think the clear answer is the Solana community and ecosystem, right? I think Solana brings people that want to work really hard and want to build something that's commercially viable, um, more than any other, L1 ecosystem that exists, right? Um, so aside from that, I think it was the, work hard culture that Edgar and I, led by example, maybe is like a way to think about it, right? Edgar and I both had startups in Solana when we hosted the very first one. So we were in the office, first in, last out. Type of commitment to like, hey, like we want to win, and I think that the community that came fed off of that culture, and I think the facility that we have always held in high standard, right? Like we've always done a place that is an office to maximize, like if you're going to do it for a month, right, and you want to be a place where people can come for a month and work hard and like be productive. Our opinion is it needs to be in something that is designed for work, right? You have nice desks, you have good internet, you have monitors, right? And it's got to be 24/7, right? People work long hours in startups, and that needs to be a key point of emphasis in the way in which in the way that we chose to build out mtnDAO. And I think that has shown success, been successful for us. I mean, I think in one of the first two mtnDAOs, I kind of harp on this tweet all the time. I remember Nam came and he had a tweet that he said, "This is the only place where you can come and work for 14 hours, leave at 8 p.m. and still feel like you left at lunch." And so, I think that type of energy and mentality has kind of stayed with mtnDAO since the beginning, and is why people come from around the world to join this builder experience, this startup summit that we continue to host.
So, what is it about you and Edgar that gives you such drive? Because it has to be a cultural thing, right? What do you
I
attribute
mean,
that to?
I think that like I always saw my parents working hard, and like that instilled stuff in me. And I like winning, right? Winning feels good, and so like you got to work hard to win at the end of the day, and be successful. And so I think that mentality is just like applied to whether it's on startups or whether it's on like mtnDAO. Um, we strive to be offer the best experience that we possibly can for the people that want to show up, right?
Awesome. So, I believe it's the 10th edition that is
The
gonna
big
the
X.
big X. It's yeah. So it's gonna start next month, I think.
Yep. Yeah. So August 1st, where doors are always open, but the doors for the official mtnDAO Summit open on August 1st.
So on a Saturday.
Yes, on a Saturday.
Wow. All right.
Um, you
So
know,
no rest for the wicked.
yeah. I think so you can't pick the days on the calendar, right? But that's why we hosted for the month. I think you'll see like a trickle in over the weekend, and like the real first day for attendees will be that Monday. People just flying in on the weekend, but yeah, so that's Saturday.
All right. Cool. And how can people participate? Can anyone join? Can do you guys make a selection? Is it capped? Tell us a little bit about how it works. What does it cost?
um it is free to attend. All it costs is a little bit of time for somebody to submit an application. And yeah, so I mean, like we generally try to accept as many people as we can. If your application isn't serious, we're not going to accept you. Or if it's not like a good fit, we won't accept you. But I think generally, if you want to come in and you want to contribute and you want to work hard and you got something that you want to work towards, whether that's learning more about Solana as somebody who's new to the ecosystem, looking to join a team, you're starting something, you're looking for teammates, right? We don't really care whether you're an engineer, a designer, BD, right? It takes a lot of people. Well, it takes a lot of different skill sets to make a successful company. And so we, generally we don't care about your background, as long as you want to come in and contribute and work hard, we'll accept you. But it does take an application. If you don't apply, you can't get in. Yeah.
All right, so you heard it here. If you're looking for a good time, fill in that application. Make sure you
Click the link in bio.
click the link in the bio. What is can I add your X account and put it in the chat here so people can find it?
Yeah. It's just at mtnDAO.
All right, at mtnDAO.
Yes.
All right, cool. So tell us a little bit more about the vibes during this hacker house, because Solana Foundation obviously also used to host and is gonna host for the first time in years a hacker house. How is it different from those hacker houses, or is it different?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty different. Now I'm maybe a little unfamiliar on like their new strategy for it, but if it's similar to what they had done in the past, I think what Solana focused on was flash in the pan excitement, right? Let's get a bunch of people to culminate in some area, congregate in some area for 3 to 5 days for a hacker house, to just sparks interest, right? Whereas mtnDAO is a lot more focused on like sustained work because it is a month long, experience, and so people come for the whole month. And so I think you have to have like a little bit of different structure or lack of structure per se, right? Obviously, like we have times, days that we don't do any programming, right? It's just work focused. Obviously, people get to host workshops on the other days, but they're not all day. From what I remember going to the hacker houses that Solana used to host in the past, there was like always somebody like up on stage, like talking, doing a demo, presenting, where that's like really good when you're, looking to spread awareness and get people excited. But if you're there to do deep work,
Yeah, it's not the best work
it's
environment.
a little bit harder, right?
Yeah.
And so that's like kind of like the main differences. Ours are, always in like an office. They're 24/7, and more focused around deep work and that serendipity of like meeting a co-founder at 4 a.m. Because you guys you hit it off and are having like a good conversation, jamming on something on a whiteboard, right? And so that's kind of like what we optimized for, which both are good, right? Like you need to get people excited and you need to do these more short-term focused events to bring people in, and then you also need these longer form, where relationships can be really created, and co-founders can be met, teammates can be made, and I think that they both go hand in hand with one another.
And what was the most profound case of serendipity, or the most miraculous one that you got to witness over the last 9 iterations of this?
I mean, there have been so many. I think, I think the explosion of MetaDAO was like a pretty big one, I would say, right? Like I think that it was like getting, some people were talking about it on Twitter. It was definitely becoming like more popular than when, Profit first, put out the manifesto and like had the Discord. But I think that mtnDAO really accelerated its awareness and that serendipity to just bring in all these people that are like, wait a minute, there's another way besides voting to do governance, right? I think that was probably one of the cool ones. I mean, there have been so many stories of being here super late, seeing random people that met at mtnDAO for the first time go on to form companies together, right? And I think that that's some of like the cool things. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many employees have been hired from teams have been joined from just like meeting at mtnDAO, right? And being like, I'm an engineer, I'm not working on anything in particular right now, and so it's kind of hard to like pick out like a handful of moments when there's just been a good amount of them, I would say. But yeah, I mean, I think that one of the cool ones I think was like the first one, um, where we had, like a senator, or not a senator, he was a House representative come in. I think this was like Mountain DAO V1. Um, and TJ, who launched Mountain Pay, called it Mountain Pay because he, launched his company or project at Mountain DAO. And it was like the first production implementation of like Solana Pay way back when. And we had like a House member from the state of Utah use Solana Pay to buy snacks. We set up like a account for the co-working spot that they let people pay with USDC on Solana. And I think
Nice.
that was like a pretty cool moment in time.
Awesome. Yeah, I had a conversation with Stephen Hess from Metaplex a
Mhm.
few episodes back. They came up with, they worked on the core standard, the core
Mhm.
NFT standard at Mountain
Yeah.
DAO in person with the whole team. And they thought of, adding the option to create a key pair for that core standard so that you could tie an agentic identity or an identity to your agent, but also give it its own wallet at Mountain DAO. I was like, wow, that's such a crazy
I love
idea.
that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
And
love that. And there's so many things like that that like, when teams were here, like, I might not hear about, but was kind of drummed up here at one of the mound outs. So it's definitely cool to see and like hear about stories like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear about Mountain DAO so many times. I consider myself somewhat of a Solana OG. I've been on Solana since early 21.
Nice.
Yeah, fairly early. Not
I'd say
22.
that's pretty early.
Yeah, yeah, I was there. I've been around, but I've never been to Mountain DAO. I'm kind of embarrassed to admit it, but
Wow. Yeah, you gotta get here.
yeah, well, yeah, I gotta. I have to. I did work with the Island DAO team to. So actually, the organizers of Mountain DAO, I at one point sent them like a text message, like, "Oh, I've got an idea, but keep it on down low." And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Oh, you know about Mountain DAO?" And they're like, "Yeah. What about it?" I'm like, "Yeah, water DAO," because I'm big.
Watered
I'm big on water
So you
sports.
you were one of the originators of the Island DAO.
So the idea was already there.
Mhm. I remember Dean, I think Demon Whale's friend came to
Yes.
at least the first one. And I remember, I think from that, they kind of did Athens DAO, which was like a pretty cool,
Yeah.
like conference like thing that they hosted. Um,
Yeah, and then right after they had the first island DAO on Crete, and I was there for the full month, and then the one after was the one after the Singapore Breakpoint in uh,
Koh
in Koh Samui, and then the one after that was in Mykonos. So I was there. There's amazing kite surfing in Mykonos.
Oh, nice.
So yeah,
Sick.
I was overlooking the water, working every day, all day, and then helping teams with data pipeline architecture, just my regular work as a BD for Triton. And I would keep one eye on the water, and as soon as the first kites went up in the air, I was like, "All right, I'll come back in a few hours," and just start ripping. And people were like, "Holy shit, that guy's gonna gonna be dead in a few hours!" Like just
Oh,
balls blazing.
that's
Yeah,
hell yeah, dude. I love to hear that.
yeah, it was crazy, and yeah, strong winds. I love it. Yeah, so I do believe in that go hard or go home mindset. But yeah, I also think, you know, once in a while dropping the work to enjoy the fruit of your labor is really, really important. And Mountain Dao really sounds like a good place for it.
I think so. I'm obviously biased, but I definitely think it's a good place to come. And whether you're been in the ecosystem since 2021, or you know August 1st will be your first day.
So do you see much interest from people from outside the Solana ecosystem find a home at mtnDAO? Tell us a little bit about that. How many ETH people do you convert?
Yeah, I mean, over the years, I mean, we've had a number of ETH people come through. They call themselves refugees. They we welcome them with open arms. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have like any statistics on like how many ETH people mtnDAO has converted, but I can tell you it's not a small amount. Um, you know, and then definitely like people from like outside of crypto in general. Just like engineers that come that are interested in the space. Um, Especially over the last like couple as like I think it's become like a little bit more mainstream in a sense, and people are like kind of thinking about like, hey, how can you deploy kind of non like gambling casino like applications with blockchain. I think like the rise of DePIN and AI and agents, identity and stuff like that, robotics. So definitely been cool to see. We've had a couple people from robotics and AI, more and more over the last couple, like I said.
Well, look at the last hackathon winners. It's robotics, AI, and
Yeah, like
robotics. Yeah.
exactly. So definitely excited to see, the blossoming of, the ecosystem into, creative and, interesting applications outside of just, financial rails. Obviously, at the end of the day, like anything on a network, right? It's going to have some sort of like financial aspects, whether that's like a pseudo marketplace, right? Like, but it can be more than just like an exchange or prediction market or whatnot. So definitely excited to see kind of the rise of like those people looking to build on chain.
What would your message be for people who are not Solana native, not Solana devs, not Solana engineers? What would your invitation for mtnDAO sound like?
I think, if you want to build on the frontier, this is just one of the best places to come and meet people and hear about crazy ideas that people are working on, right? Now, are you going to be, reindustrializing? Maybe, right? But I think that there's, a lot of stuff on the frontier that, crypto has been a part of, right? Like trying to revolutionize the financial rails of the world is a big goal. It was a big task, and I think we're starting to get closer to that. I mean, obviously we've seen like success and product market fit with stable coins, 24/7 markets, right? And it has truly found product market fit with like financial rails. um, but at one point in time, like that, like this was like probably one of the more frontier industries that was like willing to like really go out on a limb and try and tackle incumbents, right? And I think that mindset is easily, you can extrapolate that to other industries. um, and a lot of the people that are trying to build something are not the people that you see in the media that are getting painted in like poor reputation, from meme coins and gambling only, right? There's a lot of people out here trying to build impactful companies, and I think that don't write it off until you come and you chat with some of these people who are actually looking to impact the world in a positive way, right? Whether that is financial rails, whether that is data layers for robotics and AI, deep in physical infrastructure, right? I think that there's a lot of opportunity to build on chain in ways that don't necessarily seem obvious, and there will be people here that are looking to try to tackle those, right? And maybe you don't want to join it, but these people got crazy ideas, they have ambition, they're smart, right? They're still talent. um, And I think that, don't write it off just because of what you see in the media, and come and see the energy, the dedication that people have. And that's what I would say.
All right. Nice. Very inspiring. So, what were the lessons learned? You're about to organize your 10th event. What were some of the rookie mistakes that were in the first editions? Is there anything you could share on that?
Um, I don't know if we have any, like, I mean, the only thing that, like, is like, you got to have good internet, and we've had, I think we've strived to have really good internet. We got like 20 gigabits to the wall, here in this office, but we still have problems, right? And when there's 600 devices, 400 devices, trying to connect to the network, it's still can be a pain sometimes. And so, like, trying to optimize that, I think, is like is a not solved problem. But other than that, I think I don't know if we have like any big like mistakes, other than, maybe some of our activities that we've chosen to do, like taking people out on the dune buggies. We've had a number of accidents, and some destroyed machines. And so I think maybe putting these kids behind motorized vehicles isn't the smartest idea that we've ever had. But other than that, I think we keep it like pretty basic. I think we've always strived to like be the 24/7. I think that was like what we saw as like not a mistake, but like a differentiator, like what was kind of like missing when we kind of launched the first one. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like major mistakes. Oh, I think not having a dedicated events team managing, the day-to-day stuff, that was a big unlock for us. Like we've been working with this group here for the last three Mountain DAOs, two Mountain DAOs. This will be the third one. And they are wonderful. I definitely think that they've made the process so much better, from checking in, maintaining, like keeping track of attendance, making sure the work areas are clean, they're always stocked, right? Instead of, Edgar and I having to like run around and do that. That was a huge unlock. So like definitely have an events team be there to, help alleviate some of those stresses. Now, in the early days, I mean, for like 4 years, we did it ourselves, right? But it definitely feels like a big unlock. They're a huge, huge help, and we've had such a great experience working with them.
Yeah, you can't host and manage, both. It's
Yeah,
yeah, it's a
it's definitely tough. So that was like a huge one, and I would recommend doing that for anybody that wants to host like an event like this. Also, this last one, we had our first demo day, and I think that was a pretty great opportunity to help provide additional value and distribution for the teams that come through, and doing anything in your power as an event host to make it as beneficial for the teams that are coming is something that you should strive to do. And I think having that demo day was like a pretty big unlock for us, and it very exciting that we got to partner with Solana on that. We're obviously hosting another demo day at the end of this one with Solana again. So very excited for that. And I think it was, something that we will continue to do. And it wasn't a mistake, right? Not having it, because we never really, thought about it necessarily. But
so what
now that we
prompted
did
the
it,
idea?
I couldn't imagine going back to not having one.
So what prompted the idea for having a demo day?
I think Solana kind of reached out to us about like, hey, do you guys want to host a demo day? And we were like, yeah, that sounds great. Like, duh, I can't believe we never thought of it before. And so they were an immense help. They brought in their like Breakpoint production team. They do such a stellar job. Um, and so yeah, I think that that they kind of like brought it up to us, and now I can't ever imagine us not having a demo day.
Nice. So, what's next on the calendar for the upcoming iteration, the 10th edition, and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's next is do more marketing, getting more applications in. We got like a month. We're a month out. We're well over 150 at this point. And it's climbing every day, which is exciting. I think we're on pace to pass our other records in previous Mountain DAOs. So definitely excited for that. Um, just putting out more content, right? Like super grateful that that you had me on this podcast. Content is king. And so putting out some more stuff there. I think we'll do like our official demo day announcement with with Solana events and whatnot here probably either later this week or early next week. Just so we can drive that attention. Make sure people know, because the last time that we did do it, we didn't announce demo day till like during Mountain DAO, because they hit us up about doing it during the event itself. So excited to see what we can do by posting about it earlier and talking about this like good distribution event and whatnot. Um, and then yeah, just preparing the office, got to do a bunch of desk moving, and getting it organized again for the 10th one. I think we're pretty excited. I can't believe it's been we this will be our 10th one, and the end of like 5 years of hosting this, which is like kind of crazy after the first one kind of just like happened the way it did. So definitely excited about that. Always like seeing what we can do to improve you know the event itself, right? I think we're seeing what we can do about bringing in additional talent, exposing new people to the ecosystem, right? Whether that is AI, DeepIn, robotics, etc. Um, in cleaning the reputation that kind of exists, which I think is often wrong, right? But that's like what these types of events are for.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So, I think that's about everything that I had for the conversation. I learned a lot. There's a lot of things I didn't know about, the origin and the vibes there. What do you think is as an attendee is an absolute no-no, if there is one?
Um, the only like no we have is like if you're not coming to like work and like be a contributing member to the community in the event, like don't fucking show up, right? Like we're not here for a fucking vacation. Um, we're here to like grow the ecosystem, grow the pie, make something that people love to attend. And if you're you know just coming to like be a distraction, like don't come. That's like our only big no. Like come, meet people, do work. Um, yeah, so like that's like the only thing. It's like don't come and be a nuisance.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. I've been to some island DAOs, and it takes some filtering on both sides. Yeah,
Agreed. Agreed.
yes. Are you guys still looking for sponsors? Is there ways
Yeah,
that people
I mean,
can
I think
contribute?
we're always looking for sponsors. I think one of the things that Edgar and I have kind of like talked about. Um, we kind of mentioned this to you is the way that we started was helping a bunch of a small teams. There was a small ecosystem at the time, and I think that we've seen like the bifurcation of um, size of companies in crypto and Solana in particular, right? You have like a lot of these like big companies, um like not even a lot, like a few companies that are really big, that kind of don't need distribution events anymore. And then you have like a lot of really small companies, that, you know, maybe are like it's hard to sponsor some of these events. So we're trying to figure out, what we can do about like doing like maybe like little party round sponsorship slots, so you can still come in and get exposure, and we can kind of help elevate the next generation of startups in Solana, right? I think that if you relinquish to the incumbents, that's never a good thing. And I think Solana and crypto at large has been about disruption, and pushing forward, and that only starts at like, the smallest scale, right? Somebody coming in with a crazy idea, a small team that maybe doesn't have a ton of capital. So let us know. I think that that's like something that we're interested in trying to help elevate the next generation of teams, right?
So if I'm a small new team with a crazy idea but not much distribution, how would I go about reaching out? Where do I sign up?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like, I mean, obviously you can DM the Mountain Dow Twitter, you can DM, myself on Telegram or Edgar on Telegram. Both of our Telegram handles are, the same as our Twitter handles. Also join if you don't have premium, join the Mountain Dow chat, and then just tag us in that, right? If you're interested in looking, on that front, and then, you know, if any super teams out there, I'm not connected to all of them. I know a number of them, but not connected to all of them. If you guys have good startups in your ecosystem that are tiny, you know, let's see what we can do about putting together like for example, a super team Netherlands, party sponsorship, right, for a bunch of teams there, right, or Canada or whatnot. I obviously know the Canadians pretty well, Simon and Ben.
Simon is great, and Ben too.
Yes, yes, love those guys.
Yes.
And so, I think that we want to do everything that we can to continue to make it so that new entrants have as much help as they can. I think like we all started as startups. At once upon a time, like Mountain Dow didn't exist, right? And a lot of these companies are super young, super early, and the only way that they have to, they have to believe that they have the ability to break in and really make change. And that's one of the things that Mountain Dow has always been here for, right? Is the fostering new entrants, new talent, new exciting ideas that are crazy enough to work.
So if you're a super team lead or co-lead and you're not connected to the Mountain Dow team, make sure to set up that Telegram group with Barrett, with Edgar. Let's get going. Free distribution, or at a small cost. All right, final question. What is the DAO part of Mountain Dow other than dudes arguing online?
I mean, there is no real DAO, like from like a governance standpoint of Mountain Dow. I think
The
like
DAO is a lie.
the DAO is a pseudo lie, right? I think that Mountain Dow does kind of govern itself during the event, right? People filter people. I think that that's the community is all around the world. It is decentralized. It is they all are on their own, but they come to make this event great, right? And Edgar and I have obviously we do what we can, and we we'll continue to do what we can for making Mountain Dow a great experience. But at the end of the day, we keep hosting because cool people keep coming and are pushing to build exciting stuff in companies, projects, primitives, in the ecosystem, right? And so that's kind of like the DAO part, right? Like it is as much of an effort of the people that show up as it is Edgar and myself.
Awesome. Well, Trident One is a really, really big fan of Mountain Dow. So if there's anything we can do to support you guys, or if you need stellar infrastructure, for instance, fixing the internet, then make sure to reach
Yes.
out. Thanks so much for being on. Thanks for everyone that tuned in and asked a question. And I hope to catch everyone next week. Next week we have on, let's see, the Soulflare team.
Nice.
Yes, very nice. Have you guys ever hosted any of the Soulflare guys?
I feel like I've met some of the Soulflare team at mtnDAO before. I don't think Vidor has ever come through or anything like that, but um, I definitely believe that some Soulflare people have shown up. Maybe I'm wrong. I do know, you know, we've had like a lot of Serbians come through, and I believe that they are a Serbian team. Obviously, like the Streamflow guys have come through a number of times, and so I just feel like I've met them, and maybe that's just at other events and whatnot. But I feel like some of them have come to mtnDAO.
Well, hopefully. Open invitation. If you're working on the Soulflare team, then definitely apply with a serious application. Barrett, thank you so much for all the insight and for the story about how mtnDAO traveled towards its 10th edition. It's going to start August 1st, so that's in 31 nights of sleep. So make sure to get in that application, book those tickets, and head down to Salt Lake City. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and thanks for being on.
Thank you so much, Steve, and appreciate what you guys at Triton do for the ecosystem, and obviously been a big supporter of mtnDAO for a long time. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, no worries, anytime. And whenever the 11th edition is around the corner, feel free to send me an invitation, and I'll definitely get you on the stream again.
Awesome.